Mr. Popo. We'll continue with our Iranian guest, brother, Mr. Kayhan Barzegar. He's a senior research fellow at CSR, the Department of Foreign Policy Studies. He's also an assistant professor in Islamic Azad University and a senior research fellow at the Center for Middle East Strategic Studies in Tehran.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank Seta for inviting me in this conference, and I am glad to share with you some of my views as an Iranian academic on the Iranian perspective of the Syrian crisis. I think the Syrian crisis has two dimensions. One dimension is its human rights and political reform aspect, and the second dimension is its strategic and regional aspect. While I think we should focus on the human rights and changes aspects of the crisis, and changes must be done in Syria, we cannot underestimate the strategic and regional aspects of the Syrian crisis. And I think the Western analysis of the Syrian crisis has not yet considered this aspect very serious. I think there are human forces, youth elements, virtual media, Islamic Brotherhood forces that are shaping the Syrian crisis, and plus that there are the traditional role of the states in the region. And I think that if the Syrian crisis is going to be solved, there should be a combination of all aspects here. Here I would like to focus on this aspect of the Syrian crisis and put the Iranian perspective on this. With this introduction, I have 3 points. First is Iranian perspective of the Arab world revolutions and the Syrian crisis. Second, Iran's interest in the Syrian crisis. And third, I have a few words about Iran-Turkey relations in the Syrian crisis and how much this could be beneficial for regional peace and security. First of all, the Iranian look to the Syrian crisis. I think Iran saw the Arab revolutions as an opportunity for two matters. First, coming out of its geostrategic isolations at the relations at the level of states with the new friends and revolutionary Islamic nationalistic states in the region. Iran hoped that can establish a coalition and good friendship with these states. And the second matter was the fact that Iran wanted to see that the traditional concepts of Iranophobia came out of the region. And we know that some regional regimes, like the Mubarak regime in Egypt, for several years tried to put this Iranophobia and Iran as the main source of the threat. So Iran hoped that these two aspects can be removed and Iran can have good relations and close and friendly relations with the regional states, with new friends, regional parliaments that are based on nationalistic and Islamic views here. But the Syrian crisis went in different way in Iran's interest. First of all, the Syrian crisis put the entire characteristic of the regional politics in a different way, and that was that a friendly regime in Syria was going to be removed, and Iran's main challenge was that how to deal with the new regime in Syria and the future of change in Syria. That was one element. The second element was the fact that the Iranophobia came back through the Syria. Here I think it was a mistake that the opposition groups in Syria deliberately or undeliberately tried to connect the collapse of the Syrian regime with the collapse of Iran. And I think the Western element has tried to strengthen this fact, because in this way Iran was introduced as the main obstacle for the Syrian changes and political reform. I think it was wrong. By that, I think Iranian rivals like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Israel, America put the issue in the balance of power issue, and America came to the scene and tried to connect the collapse of the Syria, or the removal of the Syrian regime, to the removal of Iranian regime, or even to some more extent on the Iranian nuclear issue. That was, in my belief, a mistake. Therefore, we are seeing that an internal matter which relates to the changes in Syria suddenly goes to a regional matter. And I think here there was this wrong perspective, an underestimation of how the regional role can play and change and shape different things. We had this experience in Iraq also, when America actually connected the collapse of Saddam Hussein with the collapse or change of regime in Iran. That was a mistake again. Therefore, America and the Western context avoided to understand how the regional politics can evolve and shape the regional issues. Here I would like to mention the second aspect of the crisis, and that is the Iranian interest in the Syrian crisis. I think beyond the fact that Iran is trying to balance its relations in the changes in Syria with the issue of Hezbollah and the resistance movement in the region, Iran has another interest as well, and that is how to strengthen the regional perspective comparing with the Western perspective here. Again, I think this is important, that how the Syrian crisis put Iran in the opposite position. And I remember that Iran wanted changes in Syria and still wanted to see some changes in Syria, but how this change is going to take place. Like Russia, like China, and other regional states, even like Turkey, I think at this moment, it is the main question is how the Western line should go in the regional affairs, and how we can stop the Western perspective in comparing with the regional perspective. Here I think this is the second aspect of Iranian interest in the region. Traditionally, Iran is against any Western intervention in the regional affairs, and is trying to solve the regional issues with regional solution. And that is something that I think is very much important when it goes to the Syrian crisis. Here we have this experience of the Western solutions for regional affairs that were ended in disaster. Like the Iraqi crisis, the Western solution tried to solve the Iraqi crisis, and that was battling the sacred war against terrorism. And we see that the Iraqi crisis is ending somehow to domestic divisions amongst the Iraqi politics. In Afghanistan crisis, again, Western solution to find a solution for ending the Afghan crisis ended up with a lot of tensions in Afghanistan. And one of them was that the justification of the Taliban regime to continue the war in the pretext of sacred war against the Western aggression here. Now I think Iran's main concern is that the Syrian crisis can also end up in a very complicated regional issues. And I think here the Western countries, America and other countries, are not ready to pay the prices to how far to go. And I think the Syrian crisis showed that what are the lines of interest of America and Western countries. And I think here the security of Israel will say the first word again. And as far as this stays here, I don't see that the Western intervention would go towards solving the issues. That will complicate the issues. Again, I'm saying that Iran's interest is how to solve the regional issues in the context of regional solution. And here, regional solution, by my definition, is not just giving the regional countries upper hand. I think regional solutions means that how we can solve the regional issues according to political security reality of the region, not with the glass of international solution, rather with the glass of regional countries' interest, and how to combine the regional interest and international interest is something that I call regional solution. But a few words about Iran-Turkey relations in the Syrian crisis. We heard that Turkey-Iran relations in Syrian crisis to some extent deteriorated. But I think there is an opportunity came out of this relations, and that is that the two sides can cooperate more realistic at the moment. I think Iran's Turkey increased relations will be beneficial for solving the Syrian crisis. Now the two sides get to this conclusion that if they withdraw from the regional solutions, they will lose their interest in regional peace and security, and that is not good for the peace and security in the region. Now Iran knows how would be the Turkey's limits and potentials in solving the regional issues, and now Turkey knows what are Iran's sensitivity and red lines in terms of regional interest. And I think the two sides' cooperation can help to solve the Syrian crisis, and it is a very important element here. The Turkey's role in the context of the Western solution might be an opportunity for the West, but at the same time can bring a lot of reactions from Russia, China, and Iran, because they are in the context, they think the solving of the solution in a regional aspect. By that, let me conclude. I think changes in Syria are inevitable, and it is part of the Arab world revolution, and it cannot come back to the first place. But changing for finding a solution, I think a combination of all elements should be considered at the same time. Here, underestimating of the regional role and the role of traditional states and players in the region is a mistake to not consider. And I think the Middle East is still an ideological and strategic region, and there are a lot of countries and actors that are playing their role here, including Turkey. And these countries' interests, to some extent, should be converged here. And there are, of course, the domestic dynamics of different countries here. A good solution should be how these elements can combine together. Here, I think Turkey can play a great role by bridging the two blocks, Iran, Russia, China, on the one hand, and America, Arab conservative regimes, the EU and Israel on the other hand. It's a mistake if Turkey takes a side here. I think the Turkey's role should be mediatory to bridge the two sides. The Turkey's role value is that how can bridge between different elements here. And I believe that Turkey is doing a good job in terms of helping the regional solution can come up. Now Iran and other sides can take one step backward, one step forward to try to bring some meaningful changes in Syria, and Turkey and the other side can step backward, trying to show that there would be no military solution to this, as was said. This will lead to civil war. Civil war would be the red line for all regional actors, including Iran. I think if we focus on the Kofi Annan solution and giving some time to it, this can go towards finding a solution that can be acceptable for all elements I just mentioned. Thank you very much.